The entire world paused as history was made before their eyes. From bustling cities to quiet villages, people everywhere stopped what they were doing, captivated by the moment unfolding before them. It was a rare instance where language, borders, and beliefs no longer separated humanity. Everyone was united in anticipation. The air was thick with expectation, as if the world itself was holding its breath. In St. Peter's Square, a sea of people gathered, their eyes locked on the grand balcony of the basilica. Then a voice rang out, calm, strong, and filled with purpose. It was Pope Louis Antonio Tagle, standing before the world as the first Asian pope in history. His presence was powerful, but it was his first words that sent ripples across the globe. This was not just a ceremonial greeting, it was the dawn of a new chapter for the Catholic Church. Excitement and emotion filled the square. Flags waved, hands reached for one another, and hope glowed on countless faces. This was more than a religious event. It was a defining moment for humanity. Even as news of global events, such as political shifts in distant nations, continued to spread, nothing could overshadow the significance of Pope Tagle's first declaration. With a steady voice, Pope Tagle made his message clear. The Church must be a home for all. He called for an era of inclusivity, where no one would feel left out or unwelcome. His words were not empty rhetoric. They were a challenge, a demand for real change. Faith, he insisted, must go beyond tradition and become a force of action, kindness, and courage. Pope Tagle emphasized that true faith is not measured by words but by deeds. He envisioned a church that did not just preach about compassion, but actively worked to heal the world. He urged leaders and believers alike to move beyond treating poverty as a distant issue and instead take real steps to eradicate it. He challenged the faithful to embody the values they profess, to roll up their sleeves and become agents of change. His first command was bold and urgent. The Church must take the lead in fighting climate change. He called for immediate action, not just prayers, urging the Vatican to distance itself from fossil fuels and stand in solidarity with communities suffering the most from environmental destruction. His words were not a request but a call to responsibility, demanding world leaders acknowledge the sacred duty of protecting the earth. But Pope Tagle did not stop there. He extended his hand to the LGBTQ+ community, making it clear that the Church must be a place of love and acceptance, not exclusion. His words carried a profound message of reconciliation and hope, signaling that the doors of the Church were open to all, regardless of who they were. Inside the Vatican, he made another groundbreaking announcement: there would be no more silence on abuse scandals. He vowed to confront these issues head-on, ensuring that justice would be served and that such pain would never be ignored again. His promise was firm. The Church would no longer turn away from those who had suffered in its shadows. Reactions. Around the world were swift and varied. Progressive Catholics celebrated his message as a long-overdue shift. Leaders from struggling nations praised him as a champion of the poor and oppressed. Even international organizations acknowledged his vision, calling it a turning point for all faith communities. However, not everyone embraced his approach. Traditionalists within the Vatican expressed concern, fearing that his reforms might alter the Church's foundations too drastically. Some cardinals hesitated, wary of his ambitious vision. Yet Pope Tagle remained unwavering. He was not merely following in Pope Francis' footsteps. He was carving his own path. Rooted in his Filipino heritage, shaped by resilience and empathy, he understood the struggles of the marginalized and carried their voices into his mission. Wasting no time, he took action. He called for a global summit of church leaders to address pressing issues of poverty, exclusion, and environmental destruction. He visited struggling communities, demonstrating that the Church was not an institution confined within walls, but a force of real change. He listened, truly listened, to those who had been silenced, making their pain and hopes a central part of the Church's renewed mission. Beyond the Catholic world, Pope Tagle reached out to leaders of different faiths, emphasizing unity over division. He envisioned religion not as a source of conflict, but as a bridge uniting people in shared purpose. Yet his progressive stance sparked fierce debate. Some accused him of moving too fast, of pushing changes that threatened tradition. Protests erupted in various regions, with critics arguing that he was reshaping Catholicism beyond recognition. Headlines debated his leadership. Was he a visionary or a radical? Despite the backlash, Pope Tagle stood firm. He saw the Church as a living entity, one meant to serve and uplift, not stagnate in the past. He urged believers to return to the core of Christianity, to love, to heal, to act. His leadership was not about preserving the status quo, but about shaping a church that could truly serve the world in modern times. As waves of criticism and praise crashed around him, Pope Tagle remained unshaken. He understood that true change would not come easily, but his heart was set on leading a church that embraced justice, uplifted the poor, and welcomed all with open arms. His first command was not just a message. It was a call to action, a challenge to the world, and its impact was only beginning to unfold. Whether seen as a savior or a revolutionary, one truth remained undeniable. Pope Tagle had already changed history.